Hello, One Earth Live. This is Michael Shaun Conaway with Boldly Now. We have the great honor of introducing you to Lynne Twist for a conversation. Lynne is the founder of the Hunger Project, or one of the founders of Pachamama Alliance, and an author. The book Soul of Money has touched many of us in seeing and understanding the magic and energy of money. Lynne, welcome to Boldly Now.
Thank you so much.
Lynne, with all this disruption in life with COVID and all of the things going on in the world and things that people are grappling and wrestling with, I just want to start with asking, how are you and how are things going there for you?
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you for having me in this interview. I'm delighted to talk to you about anything, but particularly this unprecedented time we're living in, which is both a huge gigantic opportunity and a huge gigantic tragedy, a crisis of epic proportions, and an opening and a portal that I've never seen in my lifetime. So it's kind of like everything. And your question about me is I'm doing very well. I live in San Francisco. My husband and I are in our home, like everybody is, and our friend Sarah Vetter, who works very closely with us, who lives alone, moved in with us right at the beginning of this, to knowing that she would want to be with somebody. And there's three of us. And then my children and grandchildren are in their homes, and we talk to them at least once a week on Zoom and pretty much every day. And everybody is not only fine, but we're kind of flourishing in the disruption, in the pause, in the being at home, in being together. And we're also, in every way we can, reaching out to the millions of people for whom this is a horrendous crisis, not a pause, but a devastation, a crushing destruction of their life. So to be honest, the privilege that we have been afforded is such a gift. And at the same time, I'm more aware than I've ever been of what that privilege gives me, and how many, 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 many people do not have anything close to it. So,
Lynne, you've been a demonstration, if you will, of living a life, in service to both your purpose and your passion, but in service to the world. Thinking of, in the crazy, audacious task of ending hunger, or protecting the headwaters of the Amazon. A lot of people right now are kind of in this, and they're kind of coming through wounds and coming through, some tragedy, or coming through some frustration, and they're just wishing they could do something in the world. They could do something locally to make something better, or maybe even on a big, large scale. What would you say to them? How would you say for them to even examine that feeling, and then how to take action on it?
First of all, I love that is your question, and I love that people are having that experience, because when we pause the frenzy and franticness of our consumer culture, when we pause and relax even a little bit the structures of patriarchy that dominate the way we think, when we have the opportunity to let go of a pace that's unhealthy for us and for the planet, we see, really, in many cases, for the first time more clearly than ever, what there is to go to work on, really. And what Buckminster Fuller used to call the fake jobs, they're the ones that we don't really need. Fake jobs are often the ones that pay the best. But what's really needed is what we're now calling the essential workers. And I love that people who used to have to fight for a living wage and were called low income are now called essential. I love that. I want us to make sure we keep that label for the people who do pick up our garbage, to the people who drive the trucks from the farms to the grocery store, to the people who really are keeping life afloat. First of all, I think that there's an enormous opportunity to support those people, the people that are now called essential workers, the frontline responders, the police, the fire people, the grocery store clerks, and to be in real reverence and recognition of them. Also, this is an opportunity for profound, I think, appreciation for teachers, especially people who are homeschooling their kids. I mean, to really recognize what it takes for one teacher to be with kids all day long that are 6 years old, for, maybe 38 kids in one room. I mean, just the appreciation of these people that are paid in no way we're close to what they deserve given what they do. So a reordering of our society, a re-understanding of who's really doing work that's worth doing, that's meaningful, and getting behind them, lifting them up, making sure that we do everything we can to have them be financially compensated, consistent with how essential they are, and relaxing our enormous kind of unearned, I think, adoration of what I'll call the fake jobs, the huge finance sector that is manipulating money to the nines, and making money off money, not producing anything for anyone, but just skimming off the top, to really notice how completely distorted our world has become, and to reach out and make real noise about that with our voices, so that things come out of this dramatically, radically, transformationally, evolutionarily changed. So I think that's one job everybody can do: writing to their congressman, writing op-eds in the online, listening to the blogs and the thought leaders that are really starting to speak about how to reshape civilization. And then, of course, being as generous as you can possibly be with your money, if you have it, if you're lucky enough to have it, with organizations that are hurting, that need support, that need financial support. And I'm talking about restaurants now, your local restaurant. Order out from them if you can. Keep them alive, as well as the food banks and the places that are really keeping people from the most dire circumstances, to be generous financially, but also with your time, with your energy, and with your love. I really believe in the power of meditation and prayer. I believe that we can actually start to redesign and reimagine the world through our intentionality. And then for those people who feel comfortable enough, volunteer. I mean, actually suit yourself up with gloves and a mask and go make something happen, with food banks, with going to hospitals, with making sure that young people are able to go to work by helping care for their kids. We have I live on a dead-end street in San Francisco, and our block, everybody knows everybody in our block. We're, it's so rare for people to have a local experience of their neighborhood now. And this stay-at-home order gives us the opportunity to really take care of our neighbors, loan things to each other. You can do that with social distancing. You can put your mask on and take a casserole to an older person on your block. You can, we're having a dance party here on Fifth Avenue. I live on Fifth Avenue in San Francisco. We're having a band come at the end of our block, and we're closing off to traffic. It's a dead-end street, so that's easy to do. And they're going to social distance the band, and then we're going to dance, all of us in the middle of the street, kids, and each person has where the kids are doing drawing a circle of chalk on the ground, and you have to stay in your little orbit, and you can dance your heart out, and we're all taking pictures of each other. I mean, people are getting so creative to find ways to serve and support each other, and that's kind of a party thing. But I'm just suggesting that you really see who needs you now, who can you serve, who needs childcare, who needs a meal, who needs a Zoom call, who needs some tech support, who needs to have someone leave a note on their doorstep or a bunch of flowers. Where and how can we connect with people and express our relatedness and our love now? And there's 1,000 ways. I've just given some ideas, but it is a time for connectivity. It is a time for relationship. Even though we're quote unquote isolated, we're more connected than ever. It's a time for the kind of program that you're producing. It's absolutely a time for that. Really, really perfect timing for bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human presence on this planet. This is the moment, this is the time. And to answer a question you're not quite asking, but I'm going to say it anyway, the shamans we work with at Pachamama Alliance in the rainforest, they say this is the announcement of the beginning of a huge kind of profound cleanse. They call it a cleanse. It's not a punishment, it's an ally, cleansing us of our consumerism, cleansing us of our individuation, cleansing us of our, the hamster wheel of our thoughts about ourselves, cleansing us of being irresponsible about the long-term future of life. Because climate change and global warming this is nothing compared to what's coming, nothing compared to what's coming. And that we're all responding in such a coordinated fashion is kind of a miracle. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. And this response, even though in some places it's totally inadequate, is a global oneness that you and I have been talking about since we were born, and now people can feel it. So it's an announcement of what's to come in both the evolutionary leap we are taking, we must take, and it's an announcement of what we're going to need to do to face the enormous consequences of climate change and global warming.
You said something that like just provoked a new thought in me about how we have this kind of cycling self thoughts, where our thoughts in our heads just cycle round and round. And in Buddhism, we talk about, accepting, rejecting. Like our brain is a machine that says, I like that, I don't like that, I like that, I don't like that. And it's nonstop dividing the world into piles of things we like and piles of things we don't. And it occurred to me that the ultimate, the ultimate life for that brain is a life where everything, like there's never a virus, there's never problems with climate change. There's no racism, there's no sexism, there's no patriarchy. Our brain actually wants everything to get flat and level, or that part of our brain, we'll just for dualistic sake, not like it's true, say that there's a part of our brain, that a part of us that does that and a part of us it's a soul. But I think what just occurred to me when he said that is like, oh, it's okay that we're having really disruptive times, because that's real. I mean, that's really real. And it's not this kind of glossed over, like I like vanilla ice cream world. And if we've got more of this to come, one of the ways you could look at it is like, oh, poor me, or oh, poor us. Like, oh, we're going to have to endure these climate change things or these virus things. But another way to look at it is oh, lucky us. We have such a reason to abandon our self-centeredness and embrace one another and really become the loving, connected humanity, united humanity that's our maybe thus far has been our potential or possibility. So that's what just occurred to me. Like maybe instead of rejecting what's coming or rejecting what's so, maybe there should be a level of appreciation and love for those things coming in. And maybe that's the message of the shaman that came to me as you said that.
Yes, I would say that's absolutely the way to, I think, deal with this. To embrace it, not fight it. To actually realize this comes from one of our healer colleagues in Peru. He said that it's in some deep primordial place in who we are. We've been waiting for something like this to happen. Something powerful and sacred enough to interrupt and stop us from the destructive ways we're living that we don't know how to stop. And that the virus is an incredible, it's not a punishment, it's an incredible ally. And it's not happening to us, it's happening for us, as Byron Katie would say, or Paul Hawken. Just like climate change is not happening to us, it's happening for us. It is feedback. And there's a wonderful doctor that I'm very involved with right now and have enormous respect for, who says that the virus is actually viruses. There's thousands of them. They're new ones all the time. There has been almost no vaccines for virus ever invented. There's no vaccines for SARS. There's no vaccine for Ebola. There's no vaccine for HIV. These viruses come and they, what he has said, and I think this is an amazing way to look at this, viruses update our biological systems to adapt to the changes of the world. So in the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, and we're part of all that, viruses come and update the genetic biology of our species. And we are a species that is headed towards our extinction unless we make very serious changes. And we need biological genomic help for that. So the virus, although destructive, people are dying, people are getting sick, yes. He says they're actually dying from the toxicity that's in our bodies, that's part of the world we're living in now. And the virus sets off those toxicities actually taking us out. So the virus doesn't really kill us. It activates, ignites the toxicities that have come from soils, from over pharmaceuticalizing our lives, from glyphosate, from Roundup in our food. And whether that's true or false, and whether you agree with that or not, I like holding it that way because it gives me, I guess it gives me hope. It makes sense to me. It allows me to understand that this is a time and a place and a moment when we are being aided by something. And, I think about the way the natural world works, and we're part of that. Forest fires, although they're destructive, are very, very important to the restoration of forests. And some of the trees die, many of them, most of them do. These floods that come through, or tsunamis that come through, are horribly destructive, but they also create adaptations in the natural cycles. So, these human beings who have such grandiose ideas about ourselves, we're actually part of a much larger ecological system. We're not in charge of it. We're not trying to save it. We are part of it, and it is actually probably saving us. So that way of looking at it is another way to make sense of all this. And I appreciate that, what you said, because for me, my heart really goes out to those people who are suffering. But even the economic ramifications of this are revealing that our money system is completely not working. And if we can actually see that this dissolution of the systems and structures that we've been caught in for so long is a gift, not a tragedy, because we will need to reimagine, recreate the world out of it. Rather than trying to fix the systems, we have the opportunity, the possibility, I think the duty and the great privilege of reimagining, recreating, redesigning, renewing, respecting, relooking, formulating the world. And that's what I think this whole thing is ultimately going to give us the opportunity to do.
I just want to mark something there. You were saying they're going to ties all of these pieces together. I think human beings see themselves separate from an ecosystem. I think we see ourselves as this kind of completely other alien thing on the planet. And then there's the rest of life.
Yes.
And what you're saying is that there's and I'm gonna go a little bit farther with this, but there's an inherent intelligence here. We might call it self-organizing universe, you might call it God, you might call it whatever occurs to you, but there's an intelligence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if the virus is part of the intelligence, and I love what you said, it's come here to actually upgrade us as a species, or maybe even upgrade the ecosystem, not to destroy us or take us out. But I like if you could say there's something going on here. Something going on here, and we're not, unlike we'd like to think that we're at the cause of every single thing going on the planet. Maybe that we're actually part of it all, and we have enough intelligence, if we really think about it, to apprehend that thing going on out there, and to acknowledge it, and to give it some respect. I mean, respect to COVID-19. It's powerful. It's a force of nature. and it stopped most human systems. They're all so fragile that one virus took it all out. And the other thing I think you're saying, and I want to dig into this a little bit more because I think it points at the future, is that most human systems are not like ecologies. They're not built on these really small feedback loops that add up to an overall system that communicates really well with itself. Our government can't deploy masks, right? Like one of the most simple functions you would think that a society could do is actually take a product and make sure everybody has enough of it. But because masks had never been in demand like they were before, the system wasn't optimized for that.
Right.
So then it's fragile. Boom, the demand for masks goes up, mask distribution breaks. A forest that goes into drought doesn't break, and neither does it when it goes into flood, because there's a whole set of things that happen in the microbiome and happen in all these things. Forests aren't fragile the way our human inventions are, our human systems are, and I think when we start looking at our financial system or our health system, something like that, we got to get with the patterning that nature does, the ecosystem, ecology approach to designing things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to do that myself, and I mean, hopefully we find some really, but I do get a sense that we're being asked to be part of an ecosystem, and we're being asked to pattern our human inventions after those things, or at least in conjunction, not against kind of the principles of ecosystems.
Exactly. There's a wonderful book that you probably know of, but if you don't, I recommend it, called Biomimicry by Janine Benyus. And I was recently on a panel with her at an event kind of like what we're creating here. And she works with many companies to have them replicate and really mimic the way natural systems work, rather than try to dominate and control and overlord their particular market or their particular discipline. And there's a wonderful story that I think many people know, but if people don't, they should look it up, about Interface Carpet, the carpet company that went from being horribly polluting to the environment and to the natural world and to the people. And the president and CEO, Ray Anderson, said after he realized what he was doing that he should be in jail. He should be in prison for what he's done to the environment, that it's ecocide. And then he took everything that he had in his wisdom and his knowledge and his company and his money, and he turned that company into not just a zero waste and zero carbon company, but a company that contributes to life, actually generates life. And they make carpets at the same time. And there's a wonderful new film about that that's about to come out.
Right.
And that story is such an icon of what you're talking about, because life generates life. Living systems generate life, they generate prosperity and vitality around them. And we need to realize that our man-made, human-made systems, there are some that do that because they've been invented by people who are thinking that way, but most do not. And that is really what we're up against now. Buckminster Fuller predicted this. He said that within 50 years, in 1976, he said within 50 years, all of our institutions would be so dysfunctional that we wouldn't be able to fix them. We would need to recreate them from a different source, a source of understanding the sufficiency of the finite planet, not the scarcity of resources that we're always fighting for, but that we have enough resources if we care for the planet, we care for each other accurately. So I feel that that's exactly what this could produce, but we need to produce it. And the other thing I want to say is that all growth in your life, if you look at your own life, all surges of growth come when you've gone through periods of discomfort, when you've been challenged, when you thought you couldn't and then you did, when you were heartbroken and then you became, your broken heart became a breakthrough, or your heart got broken open and you saw things you didn't see, or every breakdown that's really well handled becomes a breakthrough. So to me, this is a beautiful time that we've been invited to go inside not just inside of our homes, but inside here, and reconstitute our sense of being. And this breakdown, this heartbreaking breakdown, is absolutely is painful, absolutely has suffering involved with it. And that, my heart goes out to those people who are going through that, and perhaps it'll happen to me. And if it does, I will accept that destiny. At the same time, this is part of what I call a huge evolutionary leap, what is a growth spurt. And we don't grow out of the sunshine. You know, steel isn't tempered in the sunshine, it's tempered in the kitchen, in the heat, in the fire. So we have the opportunity, and I think it's happening, to have a giant growth spurt right now. One that no one could have caused with a workshop or a summit, but this experience that we're all having in one experience at the same time. And out of it, we are much more a oneness, a planetary consciousness, where there's no question about the fact that we're interconnected biologically now, because the virus is, you know, traveling wherever it wants. So, and it comes from the earth. Everything comes from the earth. We do, everything comes from the earth. So it's part of life. And when you say we are part of this ecosystem, we're not planted in the ecosystem and then we get to dominate and do whatever we want with it. No, we're part of the ecosystem. And that's what the humbling, beautiful part of this is all about. The ecosystem is us. I'm an ecosystem, you're an ecosystem. We're part of the ecosystem. So it's having its way with us, and thank God she is, because it's time for that. And it's time for us to accept that, to embrace it, to receive it, and to surrender to it.
Great, Lynn. Last thing, what's one beautiful thing you have in your mind or in your heart for the future?
Well, I'm a new and now kind of enthusiastic advocate for Kate Raworth's donut economics.
Great book, huh?
I love that system. I love that idea that there's a inner circle in this donut, that we won't let people go below, you know, food and shelter and education and gender equality and all of that, and racial equality. And then the outer ring of that donut is we will not allow people to amass tremendous wealth. That's just not right for anybody. It's unhealthy for the people who do it, and it's unhealthy for everybody else. We will not take more from this planet than is what we need. We won't take what we want, we'll take what we need. There's enough for our need and not for our greed. And within that donut, within that ring, is a life of sufficient resources, of our needs being met, and any overflowing goes to others whose needs are not being met. And that we live in a world of sufficiency, of wholeness. And I'm a huge advocate for that future, and I think we can create it. The city of Amsterdam is already designing that it will come out of this pandemic that way. The city of Philadelphia. To me, limits are not in the way, they are the way through. They are the way forward. Limits that make us deepen the quality of our life rather than the quantity of it. And so I'm very excited about that. And I'm also very excited that people like you and the colleagues who are putting this event together are creating environments for us to listen deeply to one another, and the knowledge and wisdom that's coming through all of us, the collective wisdom that's here to be spoken, that's here to be listened to, that's here to be the ecosystem in which we live and create the new future. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and then I'll see if we can get Kate on a show with you, and you guys can talk about this together. It's, we've actually reached out to her a couple of times, and we're going to get something set up. But if you'd like to be in on that, and
I
have
would
a
love
conversation,
to. I would love to.
I'll be happy to invite you to that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lynne Twist. You know, I just, you know, personally, I'm such a big fan of you and your work, and your just ongoing demonstration of how to live a conscious life and keep growing and keep bringing new amazing things and thoughts and ideas into the world. Thank you so much for being you, and thank you so much for expressing yourself in all the ways you do.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this wonderful work you do and for the life you've led, because I know it's been one of service. So thank you.